a skull locked away in an ancient manor. If it's moved, death follows. They say it screams in the dead of night, cursing all who dare to disturb it. This is the chilling true story of the screaming skull of Bettiscombe Manor. Bettiscombe Manor rises from the rolling hills of Dorset, England, an ancient stone house surrounded by misty fields and old oak trees. It's a place of quiet beauty, but beneath the calm lies a tale of unease that has haunted generations. The story begins in the 17th century, when the manor was owned by the Pinney family. Wealthy merchants, the Pinneys traded across the oceans, bringing back exotic goods from distant lands. On one fateful voyage, a man arrived at Bettiscombe, a servant or perhaps an enslaved African, torn from his homeland and forced into a life of servitude. He lived and died at Bettiscombe Manor, far from the soil of his birth. As he lay dying, he pleaded for one final wish: to be buried in his homeland, where his spirit could rest in peace. But his wish was denied. The Pinneys buried him in the cold earth of the churchyard at Bettiscombe, ignoring the pull of distant lands and the cries of the soul. That's when the wailing began. In the still of the night, the villagers of Bettiscombe heard it, an eerie cry that rose from the ground, echoing across the hills like the voice of the dead. It was a sound that seeped into dreams, a cry that carried the weight of centuries. The Pinneys, desperate to stop the cries, exhumed the man's body and brought the skull back to the manor. And in that moment, the wailing ceased, so long as the skull remained in the house. But the curse was far from broken. Whenever the skull was moved, terrible misfortune followed. Horses refused to enter the gates. Servants fell ill with fevers no doctor could cure. The air grew cold, and shadows flickered in the corners of the rooms. Some claimed they saw a ghostly figure drifting through the halls at night, a presence that could not be banished. Over the centuries, the skull became a relic of dread and fascination. Guests at the manor would pause in the dim light to stare at it, its hollow eyes and yellowed bone, a reminder of the cost of ignoring a dying wish. Some claimed to hear faint whispers in the darkness, as if the skull still tried to tell its story. In the 19th century, a visitor scoffed at the legend. He declared the skull a harmless curiosity. But that night, a storm unlike any other raged across Bettiscombe. The wind howled, rattling the windows and tearing at the shutters. In the morning, the visitor was found dead, his face twisted in a silent scream. The skull remains at Bettiscombe Manor to this day, locked away in a small wooden box. Locals say that as long as it stays in the house, peace will reign. But if it is ever removed, the wailing will return, bringing death to any who dare disturb its restless slumber. For those who believe, the skull is a lesson written in bone and blood. It is a warning that the dead must be honored and their wishes heeded, or the past will rise up to claim the living. For others, it is simply a tale of fear, a story passed down through the centuries to explain the chill that runs down the spine on misty nights. Yet in the quiet village of Bettiscombe, the legend lives on. The skull's story is told in hushed voices by the hearth, a flickering candle casting long shadows across old timber beams. It is a reminder that in the oldest houses, the line between the living and the dead is thin, and that sometimes the past will not be silenced. The screaming skull of Bettiscombe Manor endures as more than a relic. It is a symbol of memory, of sorrow and defiance. A voice from beyond that warns us all: the dead do not forget. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. If you enjoyed this true story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Join us next time, if you dare.